Today, a developer has claimed that Nintendo Switch 2 cartridges are too slow, forcing the developers to put their game on a game keycard. Let's get into it. Before we get started with today's video, I just want to thank everyone who's recently subscribed and helped us hit 3,600 subscribers. Thank you to everyone who has subscribed, liked or commented. We are still a pretty small channel, but thank you to everyone who's helped out and helped the channel grow. And if you haven't subscribed yet, please make sure you do so because it does really help out the channel. So with the launch of Nintendo Switch 2, we've seen lots of Nintendo Switch games actually be on game key cards. Many fans saw this as a cost-cutting measure, as a smaller capacity game key card, or just a smaller capacity cartridge, is obviously going to be cheaper than one with a higher capacity. It kind of works the same as like micro SD cards. The smaller they are, the cheaper they are, the larger the storage size on there, the more it's going to be. Well, today a developer speaking on Blue Sky has talked about these key cards. They've talked about their Switch game cards, the regular cards and the key cards, and they've said that regular Switch 2 game cards, the ones that have all of the game on the cartridge, are actually too slow to stream their games on to the Switch 2. So developer Rob Bantin, who is one of the developers on the Snowdrop engine, he works for Ubisoft. He's been working on the Star Wars Outlaws game, and they said today on Blue Sky, Snowdrop relies heavily on disc streaming for its open world environments. And we found the Switch 2 cards simply didn't give the performance we needed at the quality target we were hoping for. I don't recall the cost of the cards ever entering the discussion, probably because it was moot. And yes, that does seem to be true, as other different publications are talking about the speed of these game cards. As reported on by Ars Technica, they actually talked about this topic, and they reported that the Switch 2's eMMC cartridges max out at 400 megabits a second. But if you're installing that game onto the micro SD express cards, those new very fast cards that are only compatible with the Switch 2, well, the SD card, if you install it onto there, it's actually going to be twice as fast at 800 megabits a second. But if you install it onto the Switch 2's internal storage, that 256 gig, I believe it is, you can install it onto there and you will get 2100 megabits a second. So yeah, this shouldn't really be something to worry about in my opinion, because the Switch 2 itself can do up to 2100 and it can be fast enough. So the Switch 2 is capable. But what isn't capable are the actual game cartridges. So these cartridges are only able to pull, 400 a second, and the SD card can pull 800, but the Switch 2 can pull 2100. So what Nintendo really needs to do here, if they want less games to be on game key cards, to help out developers, they need to make these game cards faster, at least to 800 to match the micro SD card. What would have been really bad is if the Switch itself, if the Switch 2 itself could only do 400, then we would be really struggling. That would mean that like just some games wouldn't come over to the system. What's happening here is Nintendo has actually made their cards too slow, and it's forcing developers to have to put their games on a game key card. Nintendo needs to fix this. They need to bring out faster cartridges for the Nintendo Switch 2. Now, unfortunately, if something is faster or has a higher capacity, that probably means the prices are going to go up, which could mean that Switch 2 games could actually increase in price. So maybe what Nintendo did here was, maybe Nintendo restricted the speed to try and keep costs down, but developers can't actually get their games to run with the slower speeds, so with a more expensive card, that might cut into some of developers' profits and cut into the production of actually making the card. It could mean that games cost more to make, which could mean that the price of the games could actually go up. So yes, this isn't an issue for the Nintendo Switch 2 on paper. The Switch 2, in terms of like the power of the system, can run games fine if you're installing them onto the SD card or if you're installing them onto the internal storage. It is fast enough, but unfortunately the cards that Nintendo are making for the Switch 2 aren't fast enough, and Nintendo needs to fix this. Maybe that 400 a second would actually be like perfect for Nintendo games, but third-party games with huge open worlds, it's just not fast enough. So yeah, Nintendo definitely made the right call by allowing you to only use the microSD express cards. Imagine if we were just using regular microSD cards, some of these games wouldn't run because the games just wouldn't be fast enough to load in all the assets for huge open worlds, like we've seen with Star Wars Outlaws. Now, obviously, not every single game is going to be affected by this. Not every single game is a huge open world game. The game that the developer was talking about here was Star Wars Outlaws, which I believe is a huge open world. It's pulling in loads and loads of assets at one time, and obviously the game needs to be very fast. The cartridges need to be very fast, the data needs to be pulled in very, very fast to make a huge, highly detailed game. When you have games that maybe don't have as many assets on screen, then obviously the speed isn't going to matter. I believe one of the games that was actually a game key card was one of the Tetris games, or Puyo Puyo Tetris. There was no reason for that to be a game key card. Obviously that game isn't going to struggle in terms of, you know, having enough data and being fast enough. So yeah, Nintendo definitely needs to fix this. It's probably an issue for the Nintendo Switch 2. This could mean that cartridges become more expensive and maybe games become more expensive on the Switch 2 because developers don't want to cut too much into their profits, because they're going to have to pay more to then put their game on an actual cartridge. I don't know. I feel like a lot of games going forward for the Nintendo Switch 2 will probably be a game key card. If it's going to cost developers more money to actually make a Switch 2 game card, yeah, developers are just going to choose to put their games on a game key card and get you to download it from the eShop. That's just kind of how it is. A lot of Xbox games and PlayStation games have been doing this since 2013. I don't believe a lot of actual like PS5 games now these days have much data on the disc. I believe you sort of put the disc in the system and then it downloads it from the store, the same way of like these game key cards work. Yeah, it's annoying that Nintendo didn't make their cartridges fast enough, but even if they do bring out a faster cartridge, I can't see developers paying the extra money to actually put their games on the cartridges. So going forward, I feel like we're going to see a lot of game key cards, and yeah, that's a really bad thing because I like preserving games. I like to know that when I buy a game, that the data is all on the cartridge, it's ready to go. I could be without Wi-Fi. The Switch 2 is a portable system, so it's great when you don't have Wi-Fi, you've just bought a new game, you can just play it straight from the cartridge, all of the data's there. It's great, it works, and it's just a shame that going forward our games won't be guaranteed to actually be on the cartridge, but unfortunately it's just the way the industry's going. On a more positive note, if you play first-party Nintendo games and only play first-party Nintendo games, I would suggest that going forward Nintendo is always going to put their games on the cartridge. I don't see Nintendo choosing to do a game key card, even if Nintendo's games or one of Nintendo's games require a faster card in order for them to run. I feel like Nintendo will spend the extra money and actually put their first party titles on one of those cards. So yeah, if you only play first party games, I can't see Nintendo choosing to do a game key card in the future. Maybe they will with the next generation, but I feel like for the Switch 2 generation they'll probably just keep doing it the way they're doing it, actually putting the game on the full cartridge. Of course, Nintendo could surprise me and start bringing all of their Switch 2 games, all of their first party games, over as game key cards. Obviously I wouldn't want that. I'd want Nintendo to keep putting all of their games on the cartridge. I believe like Donkey Kong Bonanza, Mario Kart World, yes, there's been like bug fixes and a few patches here or there, but if you bought those games and never connected your Switch to the internet, those games would be complete, they would work, they wouldn't need to install, they are ready to go from the cartridge. And I believe like in today's like modern game industry, that is really, really rare. So anyway, with all that being said, let me know your thoughts down in the comments section down below, everyone. What is your opinion on game key cards on the Nintendo Switch 2? Do you want all of your games to actually be on the cartridge? What is your opinion on this? Do you believe Nintendo need to make faster cartridges? Do you think the price of games will go up? Is this an issue? Is it not an issue? Let me know your take on this down below, and if you haven't subscribed yet, please make sure you are doing so because it really does help out the channel. Make sure you're liking, commenting, doing all that stuff. It really does help and it's really appreciated. I'll try and respond to as many comments as I possibly can. But with all that being said, thank you very much for watching and I'll see you in another video.